Now, the other problem is it's not just about shape, it's about other things like composition. Do you know what spectroscopy is?
Yeah, spectroscopy is you can measure gases, but it has to be in a container. Where's the container?
No, 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 no. Stop, 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 stop. We are looking at light. We're looking at light, and we are understanding about the materials, right? We're understanding the composition of things based on light. So when you start talking about gases, you show me immediately that you don't even know what spectroscopy is.
Wow. So already Professor Dave is making a fool of himself because spectroscopy specifically has to do with gases. I mean, let's dumb this down as simple as possible. Like, let's go to like wiki children's level definition here. So spectroscopy is the general field of study that measures and interprets the electromagnetic spectra that result from the interaction between electromagnetic radiation and matter as a function of the wavelength or frequency of the radiation. Now, I'm not convinced that Professor Dave even knows what matter is, so, I mean, let's do a basic definition of matter just to lay it all out there. The substance, this is straight from Webster's, the substance of which a physical object is composed, or a more in-depth definition here, material substance that occupies space, has mass, and is composed predominantly of atoms consisting of protons, neutrons, and electrons that constitute the observable universe, and that is interconvertible with energy. So, the states of matter are solids, liquids, gases, and plasmas. So, this is not hard stuff, okay? So, spectroscopy is the precise study of color as generalized from visible light to all bands of the electromagnetic spectrum. Historically, spectroscopy originated as the study of wavelength dependence on the absorption by gas phase matter of visible light dispersed by a prism.
So when you start talking about gases, you show me immediately that you don't even know what spectroscopy is.
So what Flat Earth Dave here, the reason he's talking about gases is because the Flat Earthers argue, their argument about gas, pressure, and containers. So in the vacuum of space, you're talking either a no pressure system or a super extreme low pressure system. In order for the pressurized system we have on Earth with Earth's atmosphere, again, I am not going to allege any of these theories are true or untrue on either side of this. Theoretically, you would have to have a container for these pressurized systems to exist next to each other, as in space, as in within the Earth's atmosphere. So what this goof, Professor Dave, he's not understanding. So because he doesn't understand something, he's getting all triggered, or he's pretending not to understand. Again, I don't know if he has a mental disability or if he's just playing stupid. But the reason Flat Earth Dave is bringing this up is because it's directly relevant to the type of matter and gases that would exist. Now, the spectroscopy is simply measuring it. Now, exactly how it's measured and what it is measuring, it doesn't tell you why it is that way. So this is a fundamental flaw of scientism cultists, because they just latch on to whatever religious institutions, the religious institutions of scientism, whatever they preach in their gospel textbooks, they just latch on. So nobody's disputing the measurements here. Now, why is it that way? For example, you can measure, oh, there's a teaspoon in a cup. Who put it there? Why is it there? I mean, all of these, exactly where did it come from? Why does it exist? Does it mean that this other thing is... So the measurement itself doesn't prove the why or how it got there or any of these other mechanisms. So that's what this goof, Professor Dave, he's not understanding this, so he's just stacking on these fallacies and ad homs because he doesn't even understand Flat Earth Dave's argument. Now, that doesn't mean his argument is correct in any way. But Professor Dave, clearly too clueless, too mentally disabled, or playing stupid to even understand the argument, so he has to pretend and hallucinate that Flat Earth Dave is the one that doesn't understand. So, I mean, let's continue this train wreck here.
So you do not know the ways in which we figure out things about celestial objects. You literally don't even know the definitions of the words that represent the techniques that we use.
So this is stacking on because it seems like Flat Earth Dave actually knows the definitions better than Professor Dave. Because Professor Dave he can memorize and regurgitate certain things, but he doesn't understand what they mean in relation to other things. He doesn't know what controls are. He's not even utilizing the basic scientific method. He's just regurgitating religious texts. Now, again, that doesn't mean it's untrue. It does not mean any of the theories are untrue, but he's not showing how they are true, which is why all of these ad hom attacks and strawmans. I mean, I don't even know where to place all these fallacies. Because now he's hallucinating and pretending to know what Flat Earth Dave knows when he just interrupted him and didn't even hear him out. So how does he know what he knows? This is strawman on top of ad hom. And, you could even rope in red herring there again. He's shifting everything away from having to prove his actual point.
So why are you even talking about it?
So my question is, spectroscopy needs to be in a container. Otherwise, you don't know what
Spectroscopy needs to be in a container. The study of how light interacts with matter needs to be in a container. What does that mean?
Well, it's pretty simple because, prisms are actually a little bit more complicated. So again, let's reiterate what spectroscopy is. It is the precise study of color as generalized from visible light to all bands of the electromagnetic spectrum. Historically, spectroscopy originated as the study of wavelength dependence by the absorption of gas, phase, matter of visible light dispersed by a prism. Now, I will get into the prism just because it is relevant here. So, again, just as from Wiki, we're using the most basic definitions here. An optical prism is a transparent optical element with flat, polished surfaces that are designed to refract light. At least one surface must be angled. Elements with two parallel surfaces are not prisms. The traditional geometric shape of an optical prism is that of a triangular prism with a triangular base and rectangular sides, and in the colloquial use, prism usually refers to this type. Some types of optical prism are not, in fact, the shape of geometric prisms. Prisms can be made from any material that is transparent to the wavelengths for which they are assigned. Typical materials include glass, acrylic, and fluorite. A dispersive prism can be used to break white light up to its constituent spectral colors, the colors of the rainbow, as described in the following section. Other types of prisms noted below can be used to reflect light or to split light into components with different polarizations. Okay, what does this all mean in relation to the flat earth debate? So, if you're a flat earther claiming there is a dome above the earth, so what would this argument mean? So again, if Professor Dave is too clueless to even understand the basics of spectroscopy, of prisms, or what the flat earth argument even is, regardless of whether it's true or not, or how it would affect spectroscopy, why is this goof talking about it? He's psychologically protected. Why are you talking about it if you don't understand any of this stuff? So if Flat Earth Dave here, does he believe in a dome? I actually don't know that, but I know a lot of flat earthers do make the dome argument. If Flat Earth Dave is making the dome argument, or that these pressurized gas systems cannot need some kind of a container to exist, again, I'm not claiming any of this is true or untrue. We can go into the laws of thermodynamics and all of that. I'm not claiming those are true or untrue. I'm not claiming anything is true or untrue. I am just examining their arguments for validity. So, if there is some kind of a glass-type dome over the Earth, certain flat earthers believe it's a snow globe-type reality. Other flat earthers believe it's an infinite plane with no dome. But if there is a glass dome, obviously it would affect spectroscopy, particularly in these gas pressure systems. And some flat earthers allege that the reason you see rainbows is because of a glass-type dome and the way that light works passing through this dome, or if some of these celestial bodies are actually some kind of holographic projections and not physical bodies, obviously some type of glass dome would impact all of this, including in the realm of spectroscopy. So, how would spectroscopy work with and without a dome over the Earth? That's the important question here, and that's why Professor Dave here is falling for all these logical fallacies, because he's not even understanding the argument that Flat Earth Dave is presenting, regardless of what is true or untrue.
Otherwise, when you're looking at the moon, you don't know what gases you're seeing in between us and the moon.
Gases? The moon is solid. The moon is a solid object.
How do you know that the moon is solid?
Okay, so wow. I mean, I think I'm going to break the logical fallacy counter. He's claiming the moon is a solid object. I mean, I'm going to throw that under burden of proof logical fallacy, because what evidence does he have to prove that? Because by his own argumentation, and I'm not using this as an argument, but the moon certainly does look translucent. And before he was the same goof that made the argument, oh, well, it looks like a sphere. Well, the moon looks translucent. Now, I'm not claiming it is, just because it looks like it's transparent, translucent, and not a solid object. If it is a gas, how would you know? So, again, he's the one making the claim, whereas Flat Earth Dave is kind of saying you don't know what it is. It could be a gas. So, technically, Flat Earth Dave is not committing fallacies if he's not making these hard claims and then not being able to back them up, which is Professor Dave's forte, because he hasn't backed anything up yet.
How come you can't see it during a new moon?
Why can't you see it during a new moon?
Yeah.
Because, do you understand how vision works?
Well,
right? In a new moon, what's happening in a new moon? The
There's no
light
light.
from the sun is illuminating the side of away from us.
So,
Right? Light illuminates the things that it hits. So a new moon is when the side that the sun is illuminating is the other side away from us. What do you want it to do? The light to go around the moon and come back and
So-
hit the other side like magic?
So again, he's not able to, he's giving his theory, he's regurgitating the scientism textbook, which could be correct. Again, I know there's so many triggered goofs listening to this, so I'm going to try to preempt as much as possible. I am not saying that is not true, but how can he prove that is what is happening? Again, so he's calling vision. So again, he's basically making, I mean, there's so many logical fallacies here. So this is, of course, the reductionism or oversimplification logical fallacy. So how do you know train tracks touch in the distance? It's called vision. I can see them touch. I mean, this is the goofery that Professor Dave is bringing to the table here. And I'm starting to feel bad for the guy. I mean, he hasn't made a single non-fallacious point yet.
without interrupting, let me just answer. When we have when it's nighttime, you're away from all lights and there's a full moon, I can read by that moonlight. That moonlight casts a shadow on the ground. Don't interrupt. That casts a shadow on the ground. So that moonlight, which is reflected sunlight off a dusty, dirty, rocky, rock ball in your world, is bright enough to travel 238,000 miles to cast a shadow on the ground and to light up my book so I can read. During a total solar eclipse in your world, the Earth is a full Earth from the moon's point of view. It's bigger and shinier, and it should light up the moon, but it doesn't, and no telescope, from any position with infrared or anything has ever seen the moon.
Can you think of why? Can you think of why? Can you think of a much, much brighter object that is right there where the moon is?
Well, during
the corona of the sun, which is thousands of times brighter. What you're doing right now is you're basically saying, I'm going to shine a spotlight directly into your eyes, and then you tell me if you can see a firefly 2 centimeters to the right. Like, what are you talking about?
What? So this is known as a non sequitur logical fallacy, aka non-congruent argument logical fallacy, a statement that does not follow what was being discussed. So that's obviously not what Flat Earth Dave was saying at all, but this goof has to pretend it was. So it's kind of sort of like a straw man, but basically he specifically gave another example, which was non-congruent.
Do you seriously not understand this stuff? A child can understand this stuff.
So we got a lot of psychological projection there. So, I mean, are we going to add psychological projection there? I mean, yeah, that's a tough one. But that was also basically an ad hom attack because he, again, just basically calling him stupid in that way. So that's just another ad hom.
So when you're throwing out words like spectroscopy, what's the difference between spectroscopy and astrospectroscopy?
What do you mean astro? So astro is a prefix that means stars. So if that's even a word, it's spectroscopy pertaining to stars.
If that's even a word. So obviously spectroscopy refers to measuring light of all matter, not necessarily specifically to celestial bodies. So this goof just said before, if you don't even know the word, why are you talking about it? So he doesn't even know. So he's just throwing a wild guess out there. I mean, oh man, this is embarrassing for so-called Professor Dave. I mean, this goof is making such a fool of himself. I mean, nonstop fallacies, and then he doesn't even know the specific, because they're talking about spectroscopy as it pertains to celestial bodies, which is obviously astrospectroscopy. So, man, what a goof.
What are you like Googling stuff furiously over there?
I'm just asking you. I've taken a few notes.
Well, he could clearly see Flat Earth Dave's arms, so how could he be Googling? The desperation of Professor Dave here. I mean, what kind of fallacy would that be? I mean, would that be an appeal to humor because he's trying to kind of embarrass him as if he's just? I mean, clearly you could see his arms. I mean, what would he be googling with?